Good evening, and it's straight to our studio in Victoria tonight.
The Social Credit Government's Labour Code of 1987 hit an already angry labour movement. The code threw out the Labour Relations Board and replaced it with an Industrial Relations Council, with broad powers to intervene in strikes and lockouts. It wiped out 50 years of union rights on matters like hot declarations, secondary picketing, and double-breasting.
In Victoria now is Ken Giorgetti. Do you think this is a direct infringement on the kind of free collective bargaining that exists in British Columbia before this legislation is passed?
Yes, it exacerbates the collective bargaining process. It makes it a lot tougher to get a collective agreements. It's going to prolong and protract strikes. It takes us back, I think, as you mentioned, back to the 1960s, Jack.
The labour movement fought back.
We had the public on our side. We had rallies across the province, and we kept building momentum towards trying to persuade the government not to pass the legislation as it stood and to amend it in a way that was more reasonable and fair to working people. He wouldn't do it, and as a result, we had to show him our displeasure. On June 1st, we had a general strike,
and it was probably the most successful one-day general strike, certainly that I have ever experienced or know of. That out of that one-day general strike, we had non-union workers walking off the job supporting us. We had community groups that didn't have a history or a tradition of supporting us coming out in support of us.
Premier Bill Vander Zalm retaliated using an unusual strategy. On the day of the strike, several labour leaders were served with a summons.
When I phoned our lawyer, John Bajent, and read him what was on the summons, he said, "You're not reading that right." He said, "They're charging you with sedition," he said. I said, "Well, what does that mean?" He says, they're alleging overthrow the government. I said, "We're just trying to overthrow the labor code."
And the headline, the labor leaders charged with seditious conspiracy. I immediately called back to the NIMO and assure my wife and kids that I'm not going to jail, and if I do, it's okay. The courts not only threw out the case, they awarded costs so that the government had to pay the union's cost for litigating it.
We had a great time at their expense fighting this case.
Despite their best efforts, the legislation came into force. The labour movement united in boycotting it and in driving out the Social Credit Government. The next provincial election saw the NDP return to power, with Premier Mike Harcourt at the helm.